When someone I know goes to Japan or Spain, they always come back raving about how amazing high-speed rail is, whether that be for its speed, its frequency, or how it brings places that are far apart in geography so close together. In that way, high-speed rail is a sort of charismatic technology. People are obsessed with it in its own right. And they tend to get excited before they even know if a particular line or project is a good or bad thing, and both are possible. Ultimately, high-speed rail projects power and technical capabilities for any country that manages to get it built. And these days, with more and more places having high-speed rail, from Turkey to Korea and Morocco, but still not Canada or Australia, high-speed rail's hold on people has only grown, because it can change the way we look at the world, bringing faraway places together without forcing you to step into a pressurized metal tube. But I think there might be another emerging transit technology that has the same inspirational and world-changing power of high-speed rail. And that's also high-speed rail. It's what I call high-speed metro, which is kind of what it sounds like. Fast subways, often very fast. Experiencing rapid transit for the first time can be an almost spiritual experience in how human ingenuity can overcome the constraints of time and space, either with complex networks of tunnels under the ground or soaring viaducts over our cities. But high-speed metro will take us even a step further. So let's talk about high-speed metro, what it is, where it came from, and how it might change the world forever. Welcome to RM Transit, a channel about public transport technology and its future. Consider supporting me on Patreon to help me bring you more videos. Before I talk about high-speed metro, I have to explain what I mean by high-speed metro, what it is and what it isn't. The idea of high-speed metro technology is that it's metro technology that is grade-separated rapid transit, mostly distinct from mainline railways, that can go fast. Now, I don't call that the same as express metro, which is related but distinct. Express metros are systems which manage to go fast by skipping stops. London, Tokyo, and New York obviously have loads of this, but other cities like Paris also have express lines, like Line 14, which has wide gaps between its stations, allowing for higher average speeds. To some extent, metro lines in places like China and India have themselves become more express, because their default spacing between stops is quite a bit wider than you would have seen on the legacy systems of places like Paris and New York. And that makes sense because they tend to have large trains and expensive stations, so wanting to space those stations out is only natural. But if so many metros are express, what makes a metro high speed? How fast is fast? While many of the world's biggest and most famous legacy metro systems, from Tokyo to Berlin, Paris to London, and New York, have top speeds of around 80 km per hour, and sometimes even lower, often with a few exceptional lines that can get up to around 100 km per hour or freeway speed. And these top speeds still hold even when there are express lines that have wider gaps between stations. So why not go faster? Well, a typical metro train is going to take around 250 meters to actually get up to speed. That means that with typical metro stop spacings of just a couple hundred meters along much of your route, you're going to spend very little time at top speed. And that means if you want your line to go faster, you're much better off spacing your stops apart further so that the trains can spend more time at top speed than increasing a top speed that they're never actually going to spend much time at. And that's where we come to our earliest high-speed metros, which originated in the transit juggernaut of America. Indeed, the mid-20th century US metros that I've talked so much about, like DC Metro and BART, as well as PATCO in Philadelphia, which Alan Fisher has a great video on, were some of the first networks in the world to widely deploy metro trains that could not only hit 100 km per hour, but go well beyond it in revenue service. Historically speaking, it makes sense that the US was first to jump on this. American cities were already sprawling by the mid-20th century, and it wouldn't make a ton of sense to have a city with tons of high-speed freeways where the train's top speeds were lower than the freeways. At the same time, trains were bigger and the power was higher than in older systems, and so achieving higher speeds was also just more practical. And all this makes sense when you consider that the US, and of course Canada as well, had rather antiquated suburban rail infrastructure compared to Europe at the time. And so these new metro systems were filling in some of those gaps as well. And to do that, you need bigger trains and higher speeds. Basically, while raising top speeds wasn't the natural way to make a system like the Paris Metro go faster, with the huge suburban uninterrupted stretches between stations that you see on systems like BART, higher top speeds actually make a difference, and help with filling in the gaps left by the unfortunate lack of better suburban rail. Now, in the last 2 decades, while 100 km/h metro systems are still not universal, they've become much more common, and most metro systems have a line or two that can hit those speeds. Even places like Montreal have jumped on board with suburban metro lines that can take advantage of those higher speeds even when stations can be spaced quite far apart. But these days, the 100 km/h high-speed metro lines are starting to feel like a transition point to something truly high-speed, which is supported by technology that's only started to emerge in the last decade or so, which means that the 100 km/h lines are probably what I would call semi-high-speed. True high-speed metro is really emerging from Asia, both in multiple places at once and at a wide range of different speeds. This is particularly true in Chinese cities, which once actually looked to systems like the DC Metro for inspiration. Shenzhen, for example, has multiple lines with 120 km/h operating speeds. Meanwhile, even higher speeds can be found in Chengdu, where Line 18 goes up to 140 km/h, while the Delhi RRTS system runs up to 160 km/h, and Seoul's GTX will be able to push 180 km/h. The natural question to ask in any of these cases is why not regional rail? But the issue is that this isn't even a question for most of these cities, which probably don't have regional rail, and if they do, it's hopelessly antiquated, and you'd be better off building a new line on a new alignment anyways. And in that, it turns out there's a lot in common with America. And just like in America, cities in Asia have sprawled a lot and have huge expressway networks, so the need for large-scale, high-speed transport is obvious. At the same time, while it might not be obvious, high-speed metro is distinct from a system like the Paris RER or London's Elizabeth line. There are smaller trains which are better suited to new alignments and stations, as well as seating layouts that reflect less of a commuter focus. Many of these high-speed metros aren't express commuter lines, but an integrated part of a regional transportation system that's meant to get you from one metro station at one end to another metro station at the other end as quickly as possible, and do that for hundreds of thousands of others every day as well. In that way, the shape of passenger train networks of the past has really shaped the passenger train networks of the future for cities in Asia as compared to Europe. And for what it's worth, a lot of high-speed metro lines are actually pushing higher speeds than the Elizabeth line or the RER, which is kind of crazy in itself. And honestly speaking, in some ways, going for high-speed metro for your fast regional backbone transit service is kind of like skipping landlines and jumping straight to cell phones, at least in train terms. Many of these express metro systems have platform screen doors at every station, something you can't find at any RER station and not at most Elizabeth line stations. Some, like the Dashing Airport Express in Beijing, are even fully automated. A lot of these things are just so much easier when you're not trying to turn a legacy suburban railway into an express metro, with all of the technical baggage that comes with that. While the Elizabeth line and the RER need to work with multiple signaling and electrification systems, these metro systems do not. So for cities that don't have big legacy passenger rail networks or development around them, high-speed metro makes a ton of sense. You get the speed of modern suburban rail, and trains can be big, but you also get the flexibility of metro that can be shoved in a tunnel in a dense area, but also easily run on an elevated viaduct in a suburban one. And unlike the legacy rail lines that you might already have, these elevated viaducts can easily be sent to where the people and development already is. Historically speaking, the advantage of RER and S-Bahn type systems was you could go faster than a metro, and carry more people, while a metro had extreme flexibility in routing and small trains that could be placed right underneath a dense city center. But high-speed metro combines the best of both worlds. You get the high speeds of suburban rail as well as the alignment flexibility of metro, which allows you to go fast not just because the trains can go fast, but because you can choose a more direct alignment. Technology has also made faster rolling stock and constructing huge underground stations even in city centers a lot simpler and more commonplace. Meanwhile, elevated viaducts can be built in suburban areas with shocking efficiency, obviating a lot of the need for legacy suburban rail alignments in the first place. And all of this will transform our cities. Obviously, with the ability to lay down high-speed suburban transport anywhere, far more cities will be able to grow to enormous size and absorb satellite communities into their orbit. But at the same time, these cities will in and of themselves become more interconnected, as any given point can suddenly be accessed from any other point much more quickly thanks to deep underground high-speed trains. That will mean that any office or residence in the city center of one of these cities will have access to far more than it ever would have in the past. In many ways, we've eliminated so many of the challenges that made a system like the Paris RER such a great triumph of engineering, with modern, highly automated, high-speed electric train systems more or less being able to be assembled from a kit of parts. And ultimately, that will mean far more cities with incredible high-speed urban transportation systems, and that will be transformative. Thanks for watching.